Hey, welcome back. If you've been on the channel, you know one of my favorite EDCs to carry is the Demko 80-20.5 Grivory OS 10A, just the basic one, 149 MSRP. I think it's really great for a lot of reasons. I love the blade shape. I love the ability to pull it out in so many different ways, like with one hand in particular, the deployment, the fidgetiness. I think this is a great knife. The Grivory actually doesn't bother me at all because they do a full frame in here, and that is kind of my standard on the EDC right now. So this inspired me to do a video because today I found myself carrying my Bugout Mini, and I was like, why is this happening exactly? And I was just in some different pants and stuff, and this week I've actually ended up carrying a couple different knives. From a gentleman's knife perspective, I was carrying my Tactile Knife Co. Rockwall thumb stud here in the titanium, just the basic one. That's my like go-to on the basic one. So it kind of inspired me a little bit, and I've been motivated lately, although I haven't actually done it, but to carry, now that I've done the full review, the CJRB Pyrite. It's just a knife I want to carry. So this sort of got me into what I'll call three main categories. I want to do a top 5 for budget EDCs, a top 5 for gentlemen's knives, top 5 in my collection, I should say, for overall EDC. Maybe I'll even go top 10 on overall EDC. And let's see how this comes together. So let's start with the budget, because I think that's kind of a good place to start, and work our way from there. So budget, what's that gonna mean? It's gonna mean under 100 bucks. You could say like under 50 for most of these knives, except for one. But we're gonna start with under 100 as kind of the concept and go from there. And we'll see where this takes us. So top 5 budget EDCs in my collection for me right now are going to be the Pyrite is absolutely number 1, just from an overall score perspective. I'm going to talk a little bit about the priority score as I go today as well. If you've seen it in some of my videos, I put a score in the description based off multiple things: feel in hand, pocket feel, the pocket clip itself. Those are two different things to me, because you can have like a pretty good pocket clip, but then the knife itself is shaped weird, whatever, or vice versa. Deployment, the ability to get the knife out. You know, there's a lot of different deployment methods, reverse flicks, regular thumb stud like you saw, the ability to use whatever the locking mechanism is to get it out. And sorry, I'm kind of coming around my camera here funny, so this is literally one of the easiest to deploy, but I'm failing it multiple times here. So this one stacks up to me as like one of the top. I in fact rated it, I think it was an 83 out of 100, which very few knives get over 80 out of 100 for me. But fit and finish, the blade steel that they used, value plays a part in it, design. So yeah, a lot of elements that go into that. So that's like my number 1. My number 2 on the budget side right now, just off the gut, and I did not like pre-plan this, but off the gut, this Kershaw Highball, just the mini one in particular, came in very high for me on the budget side, and I got this on sale for $29. I don't know what it maybe is posted for today, but if it's still up at 29 bucks, I think it was Blade HQ. That is just a killer budget EDC. Good pocket clip, nice little frame lock that actually works really well. You have to want the fuller design. This is not like an easy knife to deploy one-handed. If you're not going to use a reverse flick, you pretty much, I mean, some people can still, don't get me wrong, but there's not a lot of knife here, so reverse flick is really the best way to deploy this. That'd be like literally the biggest drawback, I'd say, of this knife for many people, is the deployment, you know, may not be the way that you like to deploy your knife. The QSP Penguin, just the blade shape in particular, I think is super functional. It reminds me a lot of the Demkos, having the sheep's foot blade shape. I think they may even call that something else, like a sheep's toe or something. I don't know. They call it something else, I think, but can't remember what it is off the top of my head. In this denim micarta is just a really comfortable feel in the hand. I have a couple versions of this as well, but just kind of going off what's on my desk here, this is a great version on a budget. You know, coming in around 33 bucks. You got 50 bucks 30 bucks on sale, call it 50 bucks, 50 bucks. And then the next one, it's funny, but it's a good knife, and it's a really good knife on a good budget, 30 bucks to 40 bucks, depending, where you get it and what color handle and stuff. But the Ontario Rat 2 is just a really good EDC on a budget. And I review a lot of knives. Like, I maybe put a Civivi Elementum in here, but there's a reason it's not here. Like, I like a thumb stud deployment more than a flipper personally. In most cases, not every case. I'll be talking about a little bit of flippers today. And then the one that doesn't really count because its MSRP is actually over 100, but you can sometimes get them on sale. I think there's a bunch on sale right now, in fact, on a lot of websites. So I'm going to include it in this sort of budget category, especially since you're getting value, like you're getting a nicer deployment mechanism. You're getting S35 VN blade steel. The Wii Banter to me is a really good high budget knife, we'll call it, but one that I think is probably one of my favorite thumb studs. I cannot think of a thumb stud knife that I have that deploys better. I don't love the lock. I've actually heard you can get some aftermarket scales that make the lock a little more accessible, and carbon fiber. I can't remember what brand does it, but they're supposed to be pretty good. But right now, for me, like 100 bucks or below, basically, call it 108 or below, these 5 sort of stood out for me as my budget EDCs that I would go to and not feel like I'm losing a lot versus my typical go-to knives like this guy or like this guy right here, which would be, way more expensive than most of these. So that is the list. Let's go on to the next list, which is going to be gentleman's knives. So my top 5 on the gentleman's knife side. Let's get these out of here real quickly. And, these top 2 almost come into that list. I may bring one of them back out, so we'll see. Again, I'm actually kind of going off the gut here. I sort of just grabbed a bunch of knives thinking, I'll generally be able to get where I want to go here. The number 1 right now for me is just the regular old Tactile turn thumb stud. It is spendy for what it is. It's on sale right now for Black Friday, 15% off. You're getting these for, instead of 300 bucks, you're getting them for, what is that, $255 or something like that. My math's not super good when I'm in the middle of doing these videos, but call it 30 plus 15, 45 bucks off. Yeah, 255. That's at 255 titanium. The action you get in this knife is like pretty phenomenal. It's a little diggy to try and get your finger in for the reverse flick sometimes, but it is a very safe reverse flick. It's a little bit of a sketchy thumb stud flick for me is the only thing I don't really love about this knife. Like, if my fingers are fatigued, I don't really love going for this knife, but for a gentleman's knife, I just used it for Thanksgiving and it kills for that. I'm gonna go right to this next one because it's actually just another version for it, but again, I'm going for top 5 in my collection. This one happens to be a little looser, and I can get this thing out consistently every single time in pretty much every deployment method, but the monkey edge frag pattern version of that, maybe a little less gentlemanly, but man, that is a really nice version of it. Won't go into all the details, but it's still titanium, just a bit of a different feel in the hand. So I'm going to stay with something that's kind of similar to this, but this is the Artisan Cutlery Arion, and like it is, or Arion, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it. Probably one of my favorite small knives for reverse flick or spidey flick, or whatever you want to call that. It is just very easy to get out. Not easy to get out one-handed without doing that. So again, this sort of falls under that list of you have to want a fuller in a reverse flick, but it does that so well, and the feedback is so good and precise, and I just almost never miss it now. I don't know, I think I have a video from right when I got it, and I feel like I've initially struggled with it a little bit, maybe because it's a full frame lock as opposed to, these are, you have liner lock embedded inside of the frame, so you can grab it a little harder while you're doing it. But the great thing about a reverse flick is that you're not going to be grabbing there anyways. Generally, maybe your finger slips down in the middle of it, but you're generally going to be positioning your hand in the right place to make that a really great gentleman's knife, carry knife. And this one's coming in at like you know, 179, so it's quite a bit lower than that. I'm a pretty big fan of like a Damasteel, and the Civivi Vagabonds. The whole name of this knife just completely slipped my mind, so I'm gonna grab the package real quickly. Sorry, one sec. It kind of stands out to me though for this this sort of format. Sorry, the Badlands Vagabond in the Twill carbon fiber with the black hand rub Damascus. This is a really cool knife that shows very well for its price. I think you get these on sale for like 80 bucks or something like that. Carbon fiber Twill, and the handle just reflects the light. I just showed this to my brother-in-law yesterday during Thanksgiving. He's like, how the heck do they do that? And I was like, you know, I don't know. I gotta go do some research on that. But, you know, it's not Damasteel, but Damascus, and it's done well. I think they do it in, you know, one of the typical kind of high-grade Chinese steels. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, 14C28N or whatever. One of those, or maybe 9, whatever, CRMOV. I can never remember. The acronyms are too long for me to remember off the top of my head, because I don't do like a lot of lower end knives. I'm mostly focused on higher end knives, so I kind of forget the letters that they use for some of these Chinese blade steels. But this thing is good for the reverse flick, good for the thumb stud. It carries well. It's just I'll tell you, Civivi does some of the best pocket clips in the business. Like, they always recess the screws and stuff. They just make a really great knife, and for the price and everything, this thing just ranks very high for me. Literally, the one thing I'd probably change, and maybe there's an aftermarket way to do it, would be like black out that C for Civivi, just so I kind of forget it's a Civivi, honestly. Like, I just don't love the idea of looking at my knife and knowing it's like Chinese, or like being one of the most standout things that you kind of notice when you look at it is that it's got this big C on it. So if I could change that, that would even rank it higher. It's a little on the bigger side versus some of these others. You can see the blade's pretty similar in length, so I kind of let it slide here, but there's a little bit length here on the end to make it a little tall for a gentleman's knife, but we're gonna let it slide for this one here. So I'm gonna look around for 1 second and try and make my decision on my last one here. There's some really great knives here that are telling me like, hey, I'm the one for you. And I'm having a little trouble deciding on number 5, but you know, gosh, you know what it's between is I recently picked up this Hinderer 3-inch. I mean, this is like the first time a Hinderer has made it high on my list, but the notch oil, and it's actually pretty small. You can actually see it probably. Let's get these moved up a little. Now you got perspective because the camera's pointing at an angle at the knives like this, so the ones up front are going to look bigger. But let's bring this down to kind of compare. It's not that different in size. Let's even move this one to the top just so we can keep perspective here. And we'll do that. And this thing, I actually didn't expect to pull it out. I was going, I'm not going to do the Hinderer, am I? But it's much lighter than a typical 3.5 with the choil and everything. Those are big knives. I was actually kind of leaning towards this Kershaw. I actually think this might be, you know, this one or this one are kind of on my list. And I just love the idea of, if I'm using a $29 knife for a gentleman's knife, what a phenomenal. I talked about this as being one of my top 2 deals I saw the other day, just in terms of like value in the market. When I got this, I bought a bunch of knives, and this one's right in there. It's one of these 2 knives. You know, this one's, maybe we even take this out. Let's take out the second Tactile. I think that's what we're gonna do here. And I think the list ends up including these 3. And I'm shocked, honestly, that this ended up in here. But as I was looking at the bunch sitting here, and the thing is, once you get into this one, like, this isn't much, it is smaller, so I guess we'll just let it pass. You're seeing how hard I'm almost trying to like get this thing out of the list, but it's actually a really nice knife. If it was titanium on both sides, it'd probably be on this list for sure. But it's at the very bottom of the list for me. along with this Kershaw, mostly because the Kershaw, if it didn't have the word Kershaw written there, I'd probably be a little more likely to include it on here. To me, when I think about the gentleman's knife, I think of just something very subtle. And that's why I'm also calling that out. The Hinder does do that though for me, actually. So I'm excited to have this on here. A lot of people, if you've watched this channel, like I have not been super bullish on Hinder. This is one of the first ones that I've really sort of gravitated for. And if you've seen some of my videos, I've not been able to deploy via thumb stud on a lot of the bigger ones. So, you know, I have this one in 2 different colors. I'm kind of deciding which one to keep, and then I'm gonna probably sell the other one. But I grabbed some during the DLT drop, like it was last week or 2 weeks ago. And boy, here we are. The Hinder is on the list of the gentleman's knives, and it's not really a gentleman's knife. Maybe if you switch this out to like a titanium, like a flat titanium almost, just to match the other side, I feel like it kind of falls in there more. So we're gonna stretch the list a little and include this, because hey, that's what we do here. This is a non-standard channel. I'm kind of doing things a little different here, and Hinder is now a gentleman's knife for me. I guess this is a bit of a stretch. Maybe what this one should be is on the top EDC list, and I should bring this one back here as like, these guys are killing it for me on gentleman's knives. So let's do that. All right, this next list is very tough. So I'm gonna try and do a top 10 overall EDC in the collection. And a lot of these aren't gonna fall into there because a lot of these would not be like my daily driver, but you never know. Let's see how this plays out. This is gonna be interesting. Again, kind of going by gut here, looking around the table, I've got about 20 plus knives sitting here on the table that are gonna go into this. The number one, as we know at this point, is the Demko 80-20.5. So it's easy for me to start at the very top and work my way back. It is a value for $149, maybe that not everyone can agree with, but if you can get it on sale right now, some of them are on sale for like 125 bucks. I don't worry about it, right? I'm not worried about chipping my M390 blade or something. It's AUS 10A, it does its job. Blade shape, handles, everything, just so good. I've got a deep pocket carry clip. That's the one thing I criticize on these. They're not terrible. I actually left the carry clip on most of the others, honestly, and I don't mind them too much, but generally not my favorite pocket clip. The factory one, it's not bad, but it's not great. It's great in hand, but not as great for carry. So that's my numero uno. My numero dos is the Bugout Mini. When I need something that I do not feel in my shorts, pants, etc., this Bugout Mini it was before this knife, my number one carry knife, and it took me a little time to adjust. I have a decent sized hand. It took me a little time to adjust to deploying it, given the size. You know, you're kind of cramping your hand in a little bit, but once I got used to it, man, it actually is pretty damn good. So that was sort of shocking to me that one came around. When I first got out of the package, it felt like a kid's knife, and I was like, this is not going to work out. But it ended up being like one of my favorite, what we'll call 3.5 finger, man, just 1.5 ounce. That thing is hard to beat for what it is. Super cool knife. Number 3 right now, I guess, I'm going to go off of what I'm actually using the most too. So with that in mind, I'm just going to use this one. I'm going to only use one of the Tactiles, but the Tactile Turn Rockwall is, you know, I'm using it for the gentleman's knife, but also at the, you know, after Thanksgiving, I started finding it in my pocket a little more. I was just like, well, that thing's actually pretty minimalist in the pocket, even compared to this. It spoiled me a little, so I started finding it in my pocket over the last couple of days here. And that has been an awesome, awesome knife, whether it's this one or the, you know, the standard version of it. You know, maybe I'll just put the standard version of it in here because that's the one that I'm mostly carrying. Although, gosh, this one right here is going to get some use now that I have it out of the safe. It was just sitting in the safe, but like this thing actually feels like it just needs to get used. So this is probably going to get some use. I kind of prefer it in hand to the other one. This one I kind of prefer, like from a looks perspective on the gentleman's side more. But if it's like an EDC, this right here, I really like the way that they kind of knocked down everything. They wrapped the grip around the edges, and I mean, mine just happens to also just be drop shut, like really nice here. So yeah, that's a cool one, the frag pattern from Monkey Edge. So anyways, 1, 2, 3. Number 4 is a sort of a tie. I'm gonna pull out the Divo Stout because it is a different brand than what's already out here, different, you know, kind of a different thing. But a lot of what I like about this knife, but it's a little bigger, thicker, a little better in hand, a little snappier on the deployment, more of a reverse flick, but it can really be deployed in a lot of ways. Roll out with the thumb very nicely. Thumb flick, it's like one of the best fullers. They've really went out of their way to make this thing ergonomic in the hand in so many different ways, and that fuller also is like really designed to be used as opposed to for looks. I'd say it's probably not the prettiest knife. It looks good, but it's a little funky looking, a little front heavy and beaky and weird, but that can be kind of cool also. So this one ranks high for me. The biggest drawback, I think, especially you can see the contrast here versus like a Bugout. Let's do that this way so you can kind of see. I mean, that is like a much thicker knife, so the pocket feels the biggest drawback on this one to me, but it's not terrible because it's very smooth and flat, so it sits in the pocket pretty well. I'm gonna throw it in my pocket right now, in fact. And yeah, it's not that bad. It's more of a pants carry for me. I don't know if I could do this one in shorts, but I do love the wire. This is just a great pocket clip. Maybe not cosmetically, but functionally, I always love the wire. Same thing on Spyderco. So, sorry, not sure what that's doing over there. That had a little issue with the camera, but that brings me to number 5 on the list, which is the Spyderco Para 3. I think it's a really fantastic all-around knife, something you can get open very easily, something you can reverse flick, thumb flick, roll out. Just the rollout is probably one of the best of any knives that I have. I'm trying to think of one that would be better than it. I'm not sure if there is one, but the Para 3 is a great weight, great size. You can get a deep carry clip. The clip's not the best, but it's not terrible. And it just kind of does it all. It can play a mix of super functional, easy to use. It's a little pokey. It's like one of my drawbacks if this was like in a sheep's foot. I don't know, maybe they even make one in sheep's foot or something, and I don't know about it, but you know, I'll say it's one of my favorite knives all around. It's just a very good all around knife and a great EDC that does everything that I like really well. So that will be number 5 here. Let's see if we can get everything to fit in a little better. All right. Number 6, full-size Bugout. So I know there's a little redundancy that's going to be coming on here, but I'm going to talk about why some of these versions are different. And this particular one is the 20 CV version from, who makes this? It's not Knife Center, right? It's the Blade HQ. Yeah, Blade HQ exclusive 20 CV version. I think the 30V one's fine for most people. In fact, that one right there is 30V, but I definitely prefer 20 CV for, you know, the fact that basically it's better in every element except for maybe you could say sharpening would be easier on the S30V. You know, that's an advantage there. Let me go ahead and get zoomed out a little bit here so we can fit more knives in here because we're going top 10 overall EDC here. Let's see, so number 6, I think has to be the Hogue Deka. The only reason I take this above it is because feel in hand is so much better. But you've got Magnacut, you've got lower price right now on Black Friday. These are going for like $107, which blows that out of the water. This version of this knife is like $200, which is crazy. 162 now is the MSRP on a standard Bugout with S30V. So this is a much better value knife. I just don't like the feel of it in hand as much. In the pocket, it's as good or better versus a Bugout. I guess it's not quite as good. It's a little heavier, but you know, fractionally, not noticeably heavier. So really good all-around EDC knife, the Hogue Deka Magnacut. pretty hard to beat aside from, again, that handle material. Gosh, the CJRB Pyrite's kind of calling me from over there. I'm gonna go with the Hinderer. Had that out here for a reason. Do I want to go with the Hinderer? Oh, this one's tough. This next position's tough because I can go with other versions of the Demko. Like for me, actually, like the one I'd probably take over even quite a few of these out here is I've been carrying this one quite a bit. You know, this is wholly different like category of knife and cost and everything, so it's kind of not fitting for this in a way. But the Timascus version is like really cool. Just the feel of it in hand is so nice. It feels like glass. That I really enjoy carrying this, and I love actually leaving the non-deep pocket carry because you get a little bit of that sticking out, which is pretty cool. I'm not like a big Timascus fan, I'll be honest. It's not, there's only like a couple. I have this in like one other thing with one tiny little thing of Timascus on it, and that's it. So I'm not a big Timascus person, and yet this knife is right up here for me. So I'm gonna throw it out there because it's so divergent from that one. And I like it quite a bit more than this. This would actually probably be a better all-around EDC. The tie, you know, you got the shark's foot blade and stuff, but there's just something that I enjoy about carrying that is having me rank it quite a bit more. The other one would be the carbon fiber one from Knife Center right now at $225 on sale with 3V blade steel. That ends up being a very good competitor for that as well. So there are a few, like, as you can tell, this is like one of my favorite formats. So if we're gonna have a bunch of Demkos in here, I could do it, but this is different enough from that, you know, these are kind of, you know, different versions of that. So we'll have these sort of represented here. You pick your flavor. How expensive do you want to be? How heavy do you want it to be? Do you want it to be carbon, titanium? The shark's foot, OS 10A, you know, versus 3V, whatever, like shark's foot, something, I think that's my everyday. But this one right here, it kind of plays a different role with the clip point and everything, and that handle, it's just in a different category for me. So you may not agree with my methodology, but this is my video, so I'll do it if I want to. And this is an opinion video. This is just based on what I have in my collection. So let's keep all that in mind. Okay, I'm looking around the table here. Looking around the table. Gosh. Okay, the Wii Banter is above it for me. It's still above it. This is still a better EDC to me than the Hinder. So that means that number 10 spot's gonna be really tight because I have one other knife that I like really considering putting out here versus the Hinderer. And it's kind of a two-part knife. I don't know exactly what the history is between this F5.5 and if GiantMouse is somehow affiliated, but this could also be like the Biblio from GiantMouse has like a flipper version that's so similar to this that like it kind of plays the same role. But this to me is a pretty cool all-around EDC. A little bit of a different, like more handle versus this, and a little flatter and stuff, but this is a really good EDC to me. So this one's right up there right now for me right now. And the funny thing is, I was not super. It's grown on me, I guess. I don't know. So it's between these two, and I'm trying to make the decision on the spot. Value-wise, it's not even close. This Hinder is so overpriced at $425. So that might just bump it out of here. But it's actually feeling stuff in hands. It's pretty good on this. Not great. You lose the choil, which would, you know, kind of make it that much better in the hand. I think that's the feel in hand might be the drop on this one for me. This is an M390. This is that DLT 3-inch no choil slicer. That they came out with, and it's just one of very few where I can actually deploy with the thumb set, and I can't do it every time, but enough that I can say that I can. Gosh, this is tough. Urban EDC, I mean, the name of the company is EDC, and they know what they're doing. GiantMouse, like, you know, pretty similar. In fact, it's so similar and so much less expensive that like that's the one that should be on this list, but I don't have it here. I have it in the mail. So I should probably wait for this to make the list and then do this over again in a few months or something and include the GiantMouse if I like it as much as I like this F5.5. This thing just has one of the best reverse flicks. And you can see I really gravitate towards that deployment method. I don't know why. I don't even use it that much on knives with thumb studs, but like the ones that do it really well really stand out to me. And this one can also do a thumb flick pretty easily with the you know, the fuller that they give you. Yeah, that's tough. I'm really torn between these two. Let me give it a little feel in the hand and we'll finalize up this video. You know, the choke up point on that is a little small, but it might be the deciding factor. The funny thing is the Hinderer, I don't know, maybe I just have the wrong model and I should get the 3-inch with the choke up point, but I feel like it'd be so big that it might not really be a great EDC. Maybe it would. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the F5.5 / we'll see if I actually feel it once I get it in hand, because I've just watched I honestly haven't even watched a review video on it. The GiantMouse Ace Biblio. It's like their 3-inch knife. I also have a Grand coming, but we'll just give the credit right now to the Urban EDC folks on that one and call it the Urban EDC F5.5. Takes the award, but I'm gonna revisit this and we're gonna see how that all stacks up. So this isn't necessarily 100% perfect order, but I generally would agree with the order that it came out. I actually would probably even put this above this. I probably enjoy carrying that a little more. That thing just, that handle, I really need to upgrade this, or they need to come up with a G10 handle. That's good. So funny that Hogue, a company known for grips, put out such a bad grip on that knife. But yeah, and I'm probably gonna swap, gosh, I don't know. The Spyderco probably jumps up above that just for the weight. The weight on this thing is just a little much. I don't know, maybe it's, I like the blade shape though. So I think this is about the right order. I'll throw out the final order in the description, but this is probably the right order. So 1 through 10 for me on EDC. So we've gone through, and actually the Pyrite kept jumping out to me as one that I might want to put in here, but it couldn't. It probably beats this actually. That might beat that for me because of multiple deployment methods. I do prefer a thumb stud to a fuller. So I think that might be what bumps that out. It already made the budget list though, so maybe we'll just leave it in the budget list. This was in the budget list too, but it's also just that good of an EDC to me. This one's right there with it. Yeah, these three really compete for the last 2 spots for me. So maybe it just needs to be a top 11 list. Let me just drop that right in there. We're having fun. Make it a top 12 list. Put the Hinderer in there too. This is a crowded little bottom section here. There's your top 12. All right, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. It's fun thinking through it. And I'm not sure what's gonna end up in my pocket as I walk over to dinner right now, but I do have to go. So hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe. Sorry about the little glitch with the video. Hopefully it wasn't too clunky when you're actually watching this. And we will see you on the next one. Take care.